Step 1 of texturing a weapon is obviously choosing the weapon you want to do. And today I'm going to be doing the Claidheamh Mòr from Team Fortress. I'm gonna start off with the shape. That's always step 1 for me, and it's always a bit of a guessing game, you know, never know quite how it's gonna end up. I just kind of do it by sight, which makes most of my weapons really large, like they end up being really big, but I kind of like that, so that's what I'm gonna go for. Just a really big Claidheamh Mòr. I just put in the handle now, and I can always tweak it later if it ends up being too big, because it is gonna be huge the way it is right now, but it should be big, right? The Claidheamh Mòr is not a weapon to be messed with, you know? And if we don't like something, we can always tweak it later, but yeah, this should be about the shape of the weapon. It's pretty big. I mean, it's huge. It's as big as it gets. And I guess I'll also get myself a nice palette for blood here, because it is a blood spattered blade, which in Minecraft terms translates to crimson. In case you were wondering if that checks out in Minecraft, it does. It's completely fine. It's PG. It's not actually blood, even though it might be in the source material. But in Minecraft, it's simply crimson. Right, whatever that is. So a fungus material, all right, not blood at all. Come on. And for the center of the weapon, it's honestly pretty simple for me, like how I do blades. It's kind of usually the same. Well, it's one of two ways, right? You can either have the center be dark, so it kind of has like an indent in the middle, or you make it light. And that's honestly prettier to me. Like, it's like super simple technique, right? In the center of the blade, you just do a light line. It's basically how I do most of my weapons. And then you leave the top part of the blade, you leave it light, and then the bottom part, you make it a bit darker, and then you're already well on your way. Like, this is already a really pretty blade. Maybe it needs some extra details in some places, but like this technique is really solid, I think. Like, this really portrays depth of a sword. I think light pixels on an outline just really represent sharpness. If you're doing a more vanilla style, obviously you'll want a darker outline around the entire weapon, but I think that just kind of makes it look dull. You could do that. Like, if you want a more vanilla style, you just kind of follow the same tutorial, but you give it a rougher, darker outline. But that's not really my style. I really like no outline, you know. I think it looks sharper, and a darker inside represents, to me, sort of like an indent, right? And then we can still play around. We have a few more rows of pixels to play with, and then let's also make sure that our blood is playing along well, right, as well. So if it's the darker pixel in the middle, we'll probably also want the blood to be darker here, just so that line is like consistent, right? And some people would call this banding, but I would just do a lighter outline around here as well, and then do that too for the blood, right? So the line kind of keeps going along. We'll do the same on the other side, actually. So there's this consistent sharp edge around the blade. If the sword wasn't so bloody, I would actually do like a bit of difference in the shades, like have some lighter in between, right? Almost as if you have like streaks of light coming in. That kind of works here. I can do that here. That kind of works. And at that point, I could also just make these pixels right here a bit darker, because the handle was also casting somewhat of a shadow. I want to shade these little blades too. I don't know how I want to shade them. Probably light at the peak, right? Because it's sharp, because that's kind of the philosophy we've established now. For swords, I do this. I don't do this for items at all. Lighter outlines, you know, anything that's sharp, you know, that actually does more damage when you hit with it. That's the way to go for me. And I'm basically gonna be doing the same for the handle. There's not much pixel room either, right? You just have to make a few pretty pixels, right? That you can interpret in a nice way, and then you already have the full blade covered, basically. And because it's only 3 rows of pixels, there's like 3 ways to go, right? I have the light shade at the top, in the middle, or at the bottom. At the bottom would be wrong. At the top is completely viable. I'm just gonna see how I like it. Maybe I don't like it, right? I'm just gonna see what it looks like, but I don't think it works so well for this weapon. So we're probably just gonna go with the crutch, which is a light line in the middle, and then a little bit of a darker line above that, and then an even darker line below. The effect is already kicking in. Like, this is a vibe to me, completely valid. My brain can interpret the pixels as like almost as like a cubic bar that's running along. That's getting light from the edge closest to you, and that's the lightest line. Does that make any sense? That's kind of how I visualize it anyways. But because that's kind of boring, you can also just throw in another shade, right? Just make it darker on this side, right? On the bottom half of the blade. Why not? Same here. Make these pixels a bit darker. Why not? See how it goes. See how it feels. And if you want, you could definitely do some 3D details like this. Would probably work. You know, something like this. If you did it symmetrically, which I didn't do, then you'd have to make this a bit lighter. So this can be under it, right? It's darker again. I mean, this kind of works. And then we'll finish shading this little infinity symbol that we have going on. And I don't actually need it to be an infinity symbol. It's fine with me if it's 2 separate rings on top of each other. That's even better, because that's the same way it is in the weapon. So I'm just gonna try to visualize that with some dark pixels and some light pixels. See, that's all it is. It's just placing light. You're just interpreting light. That's all you're doing the entire time. Pixel art, everyone. I mean, that's pretty cool though, if you put it that way, like interpreting light. It sounds pretty cool, right? I mean, pixel art's cool. It is cool, and it's relatively simple. I'll say it. You know, like you can just start doing it now, right? If you're watching this and you've never done it, you think this may be interesting, like just get to it, right? Okay, well, I've got my 2 rings. You know, that was kind of like just arranging the pixels the entire time until something felt right, and this feels kind of right. You know, it feels pretty good. I like this. I like this. This is what I like. Okay, and now we just need to do the wraps around the handle, which is fairly impossible because it's like this Scottish pattern, which we can't really do, but we can do interchanging, you know, cubes. Maybe we want to try something out. Maybe just something like this. Like that Scottish pattern is going to be impossible to replicate. You know, I mean, it's like part of this tutorial was like, hey, I can't do this. Great tutorial, MJ. Well, I don't know if it's tutorial, you know, it's a bit of a tutorial. You could follow along, pixel along. Yeah, that's how we do it till it's done. The Claidheamh Mòr. Is this a nice weapon? Was this a good weapon tutorial? Maybe we can try the lighter pixels in the middle again. Well, that's sometimes what it comes down to, you know, because I'm looking at it and I might not really like it too much. What do you think? What do you think of this? Did you think the tutorial was done? Did you think I should have stopped it there? Or were you also looking at this and like, what the fuck is this guy making? This is a tutorial? No, it's not. Surprise. Figuring it out as I go. And also what we could do is inverse these pixels right here. So we have the dark at the top, right under the lighter edge, which kind of signals that the lighter pixels that we have, that they're raised and they're casting a shadow. And that's why there's a dark pixel separating a light pixel, right? And then we still have this light pixel being the sharper edge. Even though at the top it's the inverse right now. It's fine. Does this look better? Maybe this looks better actually. Doesn't it look a little bit cleaner? Maybe I'll just keep tinkering at it a little bit until I'm happy with it. This might take a while. Sometimes this takes a while. How about that? How's the Claidheamh Mòr? What do you think? Let's just see what it looks like in hand, okay? Let's see what it looks like. Oh, it looks pretty good. Look at that. Oh, it looks better than expected. It looks totally like the Claidheamh Mòr. Claidheamh Mòr. Whatever it is. Okay, there you go. Good tutorial. When I was looking at it like this, I was like, is this the best I can make? But it's pretty good. It is good. Now, I better call it a masterpiece now, right? If I'm going to add it to my pack. It's a masterpiece. It's perfect. No, but for real, it's great. I think it is good. It's pretty good, you know? I mean, maybe the Claidheamh Mòr was a weird weapon to pick for this tutorial. You know, it's blood spattered. But I thought it was nice, you know? We could go over some techniques. And I could try out the video format. So let me know what you think. Look at that. What a big mighty blade. Bloody blade. Oh, maybe that's Claymore-ish, right? That's kind of Claymore-ish. Claymores are like, they're huge. They're two-handers, which, you know, netherite swords are not. But that's fine. For the fancy, this works. And then I like to reset these numbers to something more sensible. So like I'll make this 85, right? Makes a lot of sense. Because that might come in handy when I have to flip this around, because that's always such a chore. I think you have to calculate this back to 90, then add up the difference back up. So it was 60, so that's 90, so that's 120. So that should be like mirrored now, you know? And I don't know how that makes sense. I just kind of figured it out, but that's such a pain, you know? Anyways, you always got to do that. Make sure this is nicely centered in the middle. Oh, check this out. We can now set display settings for shelves. And I've been doing this new thing where I make the weapons just absolutely massive and I kind of line them up like this. And I like to imagine that people can make really cool armories like this. And you can't have multiple like massive weapons next to each other, right? Because they're gonna kind of like, the handles are gonna kind of like interject and stuff. But you're gonna have to look at, you know, which weapons you can align and which you can't. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? Making weapon racks. At this point, we might as well see if it works. So let's rename a netherite sword to Claidheamh Mòr, and there it is, the new netherite weapon rename in the pack. And you saw me make it, you were there for it. It's a flat 2D sprite. It's pretty simple, but now it's in the pack. And here's a cool bonus Christmas version that only shows up once a year when it's actual real life Christmas. The Claidheamh Mòr will have little Christmas lights on it. Isn't that sweet? And that's using date dependent textures. So my pack's going all out. Get it now, pair the default. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Right about now, you must be wondering how in God's name you're supposed to pronounce Claidheamh Mòr. The answer is you don't. If you're remotely near one, you'll be dead long before you're done injuring your vocal cords anyway.